Well, howdy, loved ones. I apologize for the delay. Had a little bit of technical issues, which means I was stupid and forgot exactly what time it was Central Time. So today was the big day. Today was the final court appearance, and I have with me my man. I got Wes with me. What's going on, Wes?
Not much. Thanks for doing this again.
Oh man, my pleasure. My pleasure. And then of course I got our guy Shin's Koala, our TCAP resident legal expert. What's up, Shin?
Hello, everyone.
All right. Well, I don't think we I think last time we had a pretty good background on, exactly who this person is, the case to this point. So I think we can just get kind of right into it. The one thing I do want to say is today I have the donations today are going to go to the Polaris Project, which is Wes. You want to explain what the Polaris Project is?
Yeah. So the Polaris Project is actually a national charity that helps with human trafficking. So when I was accused of human trafficking back in March, I wanted to do something good with that $500 that never made it to Muse's filthy little hands. Mm-hmm. So I donated 250 of it on Twitter, and the other 250 I donated to the Polaris Project. And right now, especially with the virus and everything going on, they really need a lot of extra help. So any donations that they can get. This is a really dangerous time right now for people who are vulnerable to trafficking. So it's a good thing to donate to.
Yeah, totally. In fact, Trey just donated and said, "I have arrived. You have permission to start now, Klaba." All right, Perfect. Trey, we let us begin. Okay, so court was today, but before court on Tuesday, you were that was the day that she had to basically send in the paperwork that she was missing on Friday. So what paperwork did you get?
Okay, so yeah, on Tuesday by noon, she was supposed to provide the documents. She said when she requested the continuance, she had some evidence, some things she was going to provide to the court to help with her case that kind of refuted the things that were said in my response to her original complaint. And Tuesday came and went, and nothing arrived.
And
Sorry.
What did you think was going to happen today? Seeing as you didn't get any of the paperwork Tuesday.
Well. So when that didn't happen on Tuesday, because I don't know a whole lot about the courts, I didn't know if that meant that would it just automatically get thrown out. If you're asking for a continuance based on you need to get these things in and they give you a certain date and you don't submit anything, that to me seems like, okay, well, this whole thing should just be a wash. But Shin, you actually had something to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, those proceedings are pretty informal when it comes to evidentiary evidence and discovery deadlines, so they could work with people. And we suspected. I first of all, I looked at your response that she was responding to, and I didn't see really any place in there where she would provide documents to oppose what you were saying. So I was kind of curious what kind of documents she was going to bring in, and I thought at the very least possibly medical documents. But when you let me know on Tuesday that nothing came in, I'm sure that the court's clerk was looking out for it as well. And when they didn't see it, I think they pretty much understood what was going on at that point. But they were still going to have the hearing, regardless of whether she submitted the documents or not. I don't read the order, at least from the bench, that the commissioner was saying, if you don't produce these documents by Tuesday, I'm going to dismiss your case. It wasn't that. It was, I'm not prepared to do this. I'd like to bring some documents in to help my case. And the judge granted relief for that. And she didn't do it. And judges hate that. Essentially, they could have tried the whole case on Friday. That's what this means.
Yeah.
So I was kind of looking forward to see what was going to happen today. So I'm not going to spoil alert you. So
One quick question, Shin. Seeing as she didn't provide any of the stuff on Tuesday when she was supposed to, would she have been allowed to enter it today?
well, Wes, you said that the clerk extended the deadline.
Yeah. So here's what actually started yesterday. Yesterday around noon, I got a call from my lawyer that Muse was trying to drop the case, which I expected from the beginning. I was surprised when she showed up to the first court case, but to hear that she was trying to drop the case now did not surprise me. I mean, I knew that there was nothing she was going to provide that was real, unless there was some manufactured evidence. There was nothing that she could provide that was going to refute this very clear case that there was no trafficking, no domestic violence of any type. And she wanted, and this was after the court was giving her to the end of the day yesterday to provide that documentation. So even though she was originally given till Tuesday with a deadline, they're not magic fairies. There was no spell that was waived, and they were going to allow her to, because of everything going on, because people really can have issues. It was a holiday weekend, and then she was supposed to be there Tuesday by noon with this evidence. So they were trying to give her till the end of the day Thursday. And what's funny is, so the court, with court shit, I'm sure you can expound on it a bit more, but everyone has to be included in the communication. My lawyer, her, and myself were included in these communications, and she was emailing the court directly. Just emailing the court, and she was saying, "Please remove me from." And Clobber, it's called "I Disagree" in the file. She was saying that she wanted to be removed from the CC. She didn't want to be copied anymore on this because she was dropping the case. And my lawyer needed me to confirm that I was okay with the case being dropped. And I thought about it for a bit because I really wanted to hear what her argument was going to be. But and I spent a lot of money on a lawyer. A ton of time is spent in collecting the exhibits. I had to catalog a lot of stuff myself, and it's a lot of work. So you brought me this far, and now you just want to drop it the day before because you never had anything to begin with. This was what you thought would be a gag order. But I agreed. And the one thing that we noticed when her advocate or whoever sent over the notice to dismiss was it wasn't with prejudice. And what does that mean, Shin?
Well, that means that she can't resurrect it at a later time. If it's with prejudice, the case is over, dead. And the only other option you have for relief is to appeal it.
Okay,
so
I have it up if you want me to read it. I know it's going to be a little bit hard for people
please.
to read. So it says, "Please remove me from from CC about the protection order. I'm dropping the petition for medical reasons, and I've had Anthony, in parentheses, advocate, draft up the dismissal. Thank you." And then it says Seth. Can you tell me who the fuck is Seth?
Seth is one of the many names or aliases or whatever you want to call them.
That's the lawyer, obviously.
So that I know my lawyer was also confused as to who Seth was. So, and that's the thing, is when you're sending an email from your own name, but then in the bottom you're signing it from a different name. That's confusing, probably confusing to the court as well. So, I spoke with my lawyer, and she also noticed that it was not with prejudice. So she replied back and sent our own order of dismissal that had it marked as with prejudice. And so Muse was not okay. Now, I expected this to maybe it was an oversight. Maybe they just forgot. This is, who knows who made this. She could have pulled it off from online and sent it in. But then she responded back. But again, not to me and my lawyer. She did not follow the proper procedure. She emailed directly to the court. And this is I disagree number 2, Clobber.
Okay.
Yeah, that was ex parte again. She thinks she's in the emergency area again, where she doesn't need to notify you of anything.
And that's what the court actually said, to avoid ex parte, all parties need to be, copied on these emails.
Right.
And she was told the first time, and still, when she responded back, she did not copy anyone on it. This is not someone who follows rules and procedures and always wants to live like they're in a panic and they're a victim of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting also that the court she chose is specifically for emergency basis. You know, that people can cut the red tape, get right to a judge or a magistrate or commissioner, whoever it is, and get instant relief, at least on an ex parte order, especially if they're being abused at home. And then there's certain things that happen after that. And then, of course, the second hearing happens when both parties are there. But this docket was not designed to be left open indefinitely. This isn't like a civil case or a regular civil case or even a criminal case with speedy trial situations. But so she basically wanted to keep this open without prejudice, and that's not the way you do it. Not on that docket. These cases are for emergencies and are to be dealt with forthwith, and not to be left open indefinitely. That goes against the entire charter for that particular court. So
okay, so I disagree too. And again, we're going to provide a link to the Google Doc. For everybody, after the stream ends, I'm gonna put a link for the Google Docs so that everybody can read it. But I'll read. I disagree too. It says it starts with hello, so pretty informal. I do disagree with prejudice. This is a medical matter requiring 2 additional surgeries, preventing me from being able to handle this matter of the petition. I also have not been able to seek any legal counsel or proper support from advocates at the time of this crisis. I would like this order dismissed without prejudice, as that the online slander and threats to expose and frame me because of my relationship with the respondent ended. I still fear for my safety as a result of the continued stalking when I've asked it to stop. If the respondent can't stop stalking my social media, in parentheses, haven't checked his activity online in over a week, I would agree to these terms, but with the releasing of the protection order to the internet as a threat to silence and humiliate me further. No, I will not accept these terms. Thank you again, Seth.
Somebody thinks they have leverage here. That's funny.
So she's basically saying that she's not accepting it because of the social media, because basically she wants to, get back on social media without Wes Moast videos coming up or Wes talking about this stuff. That seems to be the concern here.
Well, yeah. So what she was hoping to do was use the claim of domestic violence and stalking as like a gag order. She wanted me to not be able to tell my story about what happened to me or help tell Brittnay Simon's story or anyone else's story who comes forward to talk about how she has impacted their life, because this has severely impacted her fundraising. So she was saying, look, I want to drop it now because I'm not ready. I don't have anything. So let me drop it now. But if it continues going on, I'll just file these charges again later, because why not? It was real easy for me to do. There were 0 repercussions for it. Like, I'm sure it didn't cost her anything, or she probably had some help for that. And if I wasn't doing these videos, there would be a GoFundMe. There would have been a GoFundMe up about that court case and the legal fees that she needed, because that's her pattern. Mm-hmm. And so when this happened, the response from the court was, okay, court it is tomorrow. And court is between 9 and noon. And just so you know, because of the massive amount of cases on the docket, we're seeing cases in order of importance and priority. And now, based off of the importance and priority of this case, I expected to get that phone call at 11:59 a.m. because there are very few things in life less important than this bullshit. Mm-hmm. Now, my lawyer yesterday, as a result of this, she said, now she's been doing this for a long time and in my state, and she said that in Washington especially, normally if she would have said, no, I want it dismissed without prejudice, and me as a respondent was saying, no, I want it dismissed with prejudice, the court would side in her favor and automatically dismiss without prejudice. Like, there wouldn't even be a question. That's what she wanted. as a petitioner, that's what the court's going to do. But the judge did not allow that. The judge said, no, we're doing this court case. And what my lawyer said was that what that usually means is the judge has something to say.
So
the judge,
I think that a lot of this, and Brittnay is in the chat, and if you haven't seen Brittnay's video about her experience with Muse, I'm going to put a link in the description to that as well. But it's also on my community tab if you want to check it out, and I highly recommend you checking it out. I think what happened with Muse has to do a lot with what happened with Brittnay, and Brittnay didn't have counsel when she was charged with this, or not she, but
well, wasn't Brittnay?
Her
yeah,
ex
that's the thing. Yeah,
was charged with this bullshit. And then another thing is, because again, this was over the phone, right? This wasn't in person again.
Yeah, exactly.
So she wasn't able to, roll into courthouse like Stephen Hawking with, with a wheelchair and a feeding tube and a ventilator and
a voice synthesizer.
Yeah, a voice synthesizer, and like basically looking like she's on death's door.
Well, no, yeah, the sympathy factor definitely wasn't there. This wasn't a Zoom call. It was just on the phone, and no amount of sniffing or trying to sound sad is going to come across, especially when, I imagine in family court, in this type of thing where you're dealing with domestic violence, they probably talk to people all the time who are actually legitimately scared. Not scared because of the shit that they've done or the shit that they've built for themselves, but scared about this person who they're bringing to court for real domestic violence.
Right, and that's been missing in this case. I mean, you said it earlier that she basically tried to use this TRO as a gag order.
Yes.
She's not physically in imminent fear of harm to herself. She's just worried about her reputation. That's a different situation. That's liable, civil suit. But what she doesn't understand is, and just being in that particular court, she has to understand that a protective order, or TRO, or whatever you want to call it, is designed to stop contact between you and her, either direct or indirect. You can talk about her all you want on any form you want. There's no order for that. Anyway, I don't even think you get an order in a civil case to prevent somebody from doing something. You can punish them afterwards, but there's no prior restraint here in the First Amendment. So what she seems to be confusing a TRO with a gag order. And a gag order has nothing to do with no direct or indirect contact.
And describe indirect contact, Shin, because I think she might have some question on that.
I broke up with my girlfriend. I'm a loser, and I'm abusive, and I need to contact her somehow. So I'm going to have my brother do it.
Someone clipped that, because Shin just made a whole lot of admissions right there. That was big.
I know. She loved me a whole lot.
Well, and that's
I just wanted to talk to her. That's all.
I don't know
that way.
I don't know if maybe she thinks if I tweet something and the name Muse is used, that is somehow indirect contact. I remember her.
It has to be directed to her, though. It has to be.
Exactly. Well, I'm aware of that, but I don't know if she was. So I wanted to explain, because I just always assume she's listening, because that's what she does, so that she can go and report about how she's being victimized. But you don't have to listen. You don't have to go on TikTok and make an ass of yourself. You can just go away, or make the admissions of what you did and then be done. Because the more that you Nicotra your way through this, I mean, just Google his name, and that's what happens when you make yourself the story. So anyway, so the court was on, and I'm expecting this call at almost noon today, and my phone rings at 9 a.m. exactly. And I knew that this meant the judge really had something that he wanted to say. So I get on the phone, and Muse doesn't show up. So after all the money spent, after all the time spent, after all the frustration, after her claims of being so fearful and so frightened and so in a panic, she couldn't bother to show up. But she had something, I'm sure, far more important to do, which was the TikToks that she was posting.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it seems like she was going to do this a third, fourth, fifth time. You know, that's why she asked for it to, to be to drop
Without prejudice.
Right.
I think the judge would have been pretty basic if she showed up today, regardless of all her bullshit and whatever she's trying to submit. I think that it would have came down to a couple of things the judge would have asked her. When was the last time you talked to him, directly or indirectly? And how many times has he tried to reach out to you specifically? And we're talking like weeks, months, maybe. There's no emergency basis for that. And she's not in fear of imminent harm. So the judge will be able to get that out of her before she dismisses the case, just to make sure, do you understand what you're here for? Do you understand what I can do for you? And if he's not contacting you and he essentially wants you out of his life as much as you want him out of, well, I'm not sure about that part, then, there's no basis for an emergency here. And there's certainly no imminent harm because you're telling me he hasn't contacted you other than those text messages with regard to the immediate aftermath of the attempted arrest on you and a few other things where you're trying to be somewhat noble with the money and whatnot. Again, even those conversations, even those text messages can be evaluated on its face to show that they're not per se abusive at all.
No, those were all included. Those were all included as part of my package because they prove that there was no extortion, or she was trying to claim I backwards extorted her, which I don't even know what the fuck that is. But so she was making a lot of claims. So all of the communication was included as far as her telling me that if I didn't give her this money that we were going to be going to court. My last contact of any type with her was March 12th, which was the day she tried having me arrested. She said at the last thing, if you contact me again, I'm going to call the police. And I had every reason to believe that if I contacted her again, she would call the police because she called the police for no reason. Why wouldn't she call them now that she put it in writing if I called her again, if I contacted her? Because that's the kind of person she is. So I never contacted her again. She contacted me several times. She sent me some bullshit cease and desist. She's also sent cease and desist to Drama and Opinions, Real Stream News. Can you bring up that cease and desist, Clobber?
Sure.
Now, she sent me this in April. It was this was after I announced that I would be interviewing Brittnay Simon, that Brittnay Simon had contacted me out of the blue. Like, I thought it was a troll at first, but she had contacted me and wanted to tell her story. And I was excited about that. So I posted something about it. And then like a day or two later, I got this cease and desist, which Shin, I'd like you to give your opinion on this once Clobber brings it up and reads it. And then I'll say why I was so frustrated by what happened with court today.
Okay.
Other than the obvious.
So the cease and desist is from April 3rd of 2020. And it says, again, very informal, greetings. You are formally asked, you are being formally asked to using my name. You are formally being asked to
don't try and make sense of the language.
You are formally being asked to using my name, likeness, image, or story for any and all forms of media. This is effective immediately with past...
No, this is effectively immediately. I want you to read it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. This is effectively immediately with past videos already being sent to the DA's office. This email will be followed up with a filing of a protection order, which you will be given within the coming weeks. These videos have been deemed as cyber stalking, harassment, and are not welcomed. Deemed by who? Deemed by her, I assume.
Probably the 4-year-old.
Oh, it might have been the 4-year-olds really has a lot to say about this.
Yeah.
Brittnay Simon has already received a cease and desist, although wasn't it a cease and desist?
The cease and desist was in my protection.
Oh, that was in the protection. That's right.
Yeah.
Brittnay Simon has already received a cease and desist notice, and if she does continue these digital attacks with you, she has already been given this notice months ago. This notice is sent on suggestion of my therapist and has been followed up with by human trafficking agencies and the DA on the
No,
case.
not and the DA.
Oh, and
Not,
I'm sorry. This notice is sent on suggestion of my therapist and has been followed up with by human trafficking agencies and DA on the case. Thank you. And I assume this was Seth or
this one wasn't from Seth. This one was from one of her different names.
Okay, so Corey or Quinn or whoever's pulling the strings on this one.
Now, this was the first time that she had contacted me since the last time, 312. And it was the first of many times that she would start adding Brittnay Simon's name to anything involving me. Because in her head, it sounds much better to make it a mob that's coming after you than just one person. If she can say, well, of course, it's the boyfriend of the guy who I have a 5-year order of protection. I'm sorry, it's the ex-girlfriend of the guy I have a 5-year order of protection against. It makes her sound like she's being victimized. As far as that 5-year order of protection, that even in the petition for order of protection, the poop that she sent to me, it said that in there she claims that she has a 5-year order of protection against her ex. But she attached the order of protection to it because she was claiming we were working together. And it is very clearly a 1-year order of protection. So even in the documentation that she's submitting to the court, she's lying on it while attaching the actual order of protection that shows it's a 1 year. It expires in August. But so in that order of protection, Brittnay Simon's name was probably mentioned just as many times as mine was. She mentions in there that she also wants to serve Britney because Britney is somehow responsible for a motorcycle being stolen in 2019, and there's claims about people taking pictures of them of her on the bus. But of course, none of this has been verified. And my personal favorite was that she added some tweets to this petition for order of protection. Some tweets that someone sent her, some random Twitter, it wasn't like, I don't think it was a sock account. I think this is like a legit account that someone was sending her things saying, you're a horrible person. You need to stop running and admit that you're a horrible person. Like, this is what you do. You run and then you turn back up and you need to stop. I know your full, and the person said, I know your full name, but I'm not going to put that out there because I'm not a piece of shit like you. And she includes this, like, look, these people are threatening to dox me. They're threatening to hurt me. They're threatening to kill me. But the only thing that she could show was this thing where this person is telling her the absolute truth. You are a bad person and you need to stop. And if you really do believe that any of these things have happened to you, if you really do believe that, now Brittany's video, I know Clobber talked about it, but holy shit. I told her story as best I could, but no one's going to tell it as well as she could. And she showed receipts that I couldn't show. She gave you emotion that I couldn't give you as to what all was happening behind the scenes. But I lost my train of thought, Clover.
Well, and Britney in that video, speaking of the motorcycle and the pictures on the bus, I don't know who knows about the pictures on the bus, but Britney said that where they were living, they had like 10 or 11 motorcycles stolen within like a year or something. So
well, that was what I was getting at there. It's there was just a lot of things that she was able to try and blame on Britney. It's like if I go outside and my car doesn't start, she's a Wiccan. Can I say, oh, she put a hex on me? And then any bad thing that happens in my life, I can just blame on that hex and keep saying, well, of course, she put a hex on me, so that's why I got let go from my job, even though I hadn't worked in 3 weeks. It's just one of those things where she wanted to vilify. She wanted to vilify Britney, and she wanted to come off as this victim. But if she really does believe that all of these things are happening to her, then holy shit, does she need help? Because these things aren't real.
And what's sad about that is essentially that's exactly what happened. She vilified Britney, essentially chased Britney off of YouTube, had all these people turn against her, and it was all bullshit.
Well, and if you want to know the extent of how it went, when I first talked to Brittney, now she was very standoffish, which I understand.
Sure.
You know, I would be too. She for I don't know how long she thought this, but she wasn't 100% sure that this wasn't like something that I put out to lure her out of hiding so that she could be exposed further with some fake bullshit. So like there was a question on her mind, like, am I for real? And that tells you, like, I made 2 videos. I showed a lot of receipts, but in her mind, there was a chance that this girl was so diabolical that this was a setup.
A setup from
by Muse. Like Muse and I
Oh.
were working together to get Brittnay Simon out of hiding so that we could expose her some more, or she could be hurt some more. You know, because all she wanted was to be left alone.
Yeah.
I never expected, I never reached out to Brittnay. I didn't know how to try and get a hold. From what I understand, she's like a very hard person to find unless you are on her Patreon, which, like, if you guys miss her content, I know a lot of people message me a lot wanting to pass me messages to her, but if you do miss her content, I never heard of Brittnay Simon until all this stuff happened. I'd never seen any of her content, but she's obviously a great content creator. And if you guys miss her stuff, like, support her on Patreon. I mean, you guys have seen, I completely understand why she's not back on YouTube.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I will also put a link to Brittney's Patreon because Brittney's helped so many people that to have this happen to her was just, just disgusting.
Well, and Brittnay didn't need to tell her story either.
No,
she didn't need to come back and do it. I think that with everything that's happened over the past 2 months, that a lot of people realized that they owed her apologies, and I'm sure she's got a lot of those, and that's not why she came back. She didn't come back to rub it in anyone's face.
Sure.
It was part of it. I'm sure it was very healing for her to be able to get that out, but she didn't have to do that, and she did. It wasn't a clout move. It's not one of those things. She needed to tell her story, and it's so much clearer. From when I told her story, like I said, I did the best I could. But it's always harder to tell someone else's story than it is to tell your own.
RSN also donated, and he said, "Hey, Maine, down with the puppy puncher."
Yeah, down with the puppy puncher.
And RSN, another guy who was falsely accused by Muse of showing a video that she posted. I mean,
yeah,
it's not like he went into, it's not like he hacked your computer and found this video. This video was made on a public site.
Well, that's another thing I don't know if a lot of people know. I mean, RSN does, but I met Muse because I was doing an investigation. I was in the beginning stages of an investigation into RSN because I had people contacting me. Now, I got on Twitter January 1st, December 31st, as Vince was doxing me for the, I don't know, second or third time. That's when I got on Twitter. And then the receipt video came out, and then people started kind of knowing me for doing these types of analysis or investigations, whatever you want to call it. And so there were a lot of people saying, oh, there's all these things going on with RSN and this girl Muse. And so it sounded like a story. And when I talked to her, she had this crazy story about what had happened. And then I talked to another person who also had some crazy story that later turned out not to be true. But that is how that's where the connection came from. So I, from the beginning, was told that he was doxing her. Her rushing to move out here sooner, because initially it was supposed to be like March or April. Like, take some time instead of rushing out here within such a short period of time. But not only was she claiming the infection and that she was worried about sepsis, which, I know how dangerous that can be. But when that wasn't working, when that wasn't getting me to move forward fast enough, she started claiming that someone was trying to break in to the home she was living in because of the doxing that RSN had done. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, by this time, her YouTube channel had been scrubbed because she would always scrub her channel, because when you're changing your story and your identity and your ailments so often, you have to get rid of old videos. I mean, she should have taken down the "I was almost human trafficked" video from 2017. But intelligence is not her strong point. Lying is. But so she didn't have the video where I guess she live streamed or she made videos her entire train ride when she went from Washington to Georgia. And she was talking about where she was going, and I guess she had a sign of the city that she was going to. So when he posted a Craigslist ad where she was selling her dog, her service dog,
which
that
again is on a public
exactly.
site.
Now there was no address listed on that Craigslist posting. It did say a city, but she had given that city out many, many times. So that's not doxing, but she did call the FBI. And that tells you she didn't call the FBI because she was concerned about her safety. She didn't call the FBI because she thought someone was trying to break into her home because of RSN. She called the FBI because he was exposing her, and so it was like winning the lottery on Friday, which is what it was for her when she took Brittnay Simon down. She took down this person who she had idolized for years, and then when this person didn't give them the attention and the relationship that she wanted, then she decided, well, then Brittnay Simon is done. I'm going to ruin her. As soon as Brittnay wasn't willing to turn her back on her ex, who she knew, it wasn't just a hunch. She knew from the conversation, from the text messages, that there was no sexual assault. Then she decided that she was going to take Brittnay down and she was going to use her platform to boost herself, because she's been on YouTube for many, many, many years trying to do something.
Yeah, what's funny is she talks about all the people who contacted you as clout chasers, but she basically got into Britney's life to build herself up. And then when, after she fucked over Britney, she went to, the person who had the next amount of subscribers, which would have been RSN.
Yeah.
And RSN gets fucked. She fucks over RSN, and then she goes to Deity, fucks him over, and then goes to you. And
and you're
eventually,
right.
YouTube schizophrenic.
Because you're right, and if you look at it, the trajectory, Brittnay had the most subscribers, RSN second, Deity third. No, you're completely right. That's how it went, and she just keeps sliding down the scale, but trying to build herself up in the process. And with the Brittnay Simon thing, the thing that I find the most ironic is, so she's saying now how, do you not understand the impact that this has on people's lives? And when she's talking about herself, but look at what she did to Brittnay after all that. When Brittnay was gone, she didn't stop. She posted on Kiwi Farms talking about the assault. She was on Tumblr trying to spread awareness. There's a Clobber in that folder. There's something called What She Did to Britney.
Yep, got it.
And that just shows, I mean, this person is saying, oh, you're being so cruel to me. Like this is weeks old and you guys are still talking about it. But then she was posting so many things like this, also trying to tweet at people who work within the BDSM community who are, influencers, and to tweet at them to try and expose Britney, or just to get them to feel bad for her.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead, Wes.
Well, it's something that I noticed she did a lot. Like after she had been essentially, quote unquote, canceled, after when the videos came out, and she didn't try and apologize. She didn't say, I admit I made a mistake. It was, oh, well, Muse is dead. She's no longer here. And Muse has made some statements before to mislead the public. But Muse is no longer here. So you can't blame someone who's not here for something that happened. But then she went on the rampage like this for months. It was not done even when I met her. She was still going after Britney.
Okay, and this says, yes, I was the other woman for those who asked years ago. Here's what really happened. I know this site is dead, but I need to get my story out. Please feel free to reblog and post. And then just a fuck ton of hashtags, which
and then some of them, like hashtag actually autistic.
Right.
Some of the BDSM, things that she put in there, but actually autistic is in there twice, because she needs people to know that she's a vulnerable adult, which is what she thinks she is or what she claims to be, but without an actual autism diagnosis. Which she doesn't have autism. Let's just get that out there. She does not have autism. And if she does, she's so mildly on the spectrum, she's not a vulnerable adult. She is very aware of what she is doing. And if she's not, it's not because of autism, it's because of voices in her head. And that's not a joke, and that's not making light of it. If she really does believe there are all these people in her head that are these different people telling her to do these things.
Yeah.
Um,
My man Heisenberg just donated. Use this money to put Wes behind bars, or to help Betty. It's up to you. Oh, hi Wes. Hi Klaba. He forgot about Shin, but
it's fine. Everyone forgets about Shin.
So yeah, and then also it also little YouTube. You're right. Yeah, she did. She put actually autistic in here twice, and then hashtag, and then she added Brittnay Simon to this Patreon model.
And that's what she's saying. Who people who asked years ago, here's what really happened, and she was trying to expose Britney everywhere she could. She wanted Britney exposed so badly because Britney rejected her. Britney didn't even, the person she was making the claim against wasn't even Britney. Like, how would she blame Britney for that? But she couldn't go after him because he wasn't the name. But if he would have had, 800,000 subscribers on YouTube, you never would have heard Brittnay Simon mentioned.
Right. Yeah.
So when she was able to go to court, when she was able to get the 1-year restraining order, and she did request the 5-year and was turned down. When she was able to get the 1-year order, it emboldened her that this is what I have to do. When I don't like something, I can take them to court. I can make some claim. I'm in a wheelchair. I've got this feeding tube. Look at the picture she used in that thumbnail for the RSN interview. She looked like a cancer patient. She has no eyebrows. Her head is shaved. If you saw someone like that, you're thinking of that Gypsy Rose or whatever her name is. But that's what she looked like. She looked sickly. She looked on her deathbed. So when you're sitting there in your wheelchair, telling the judge that you feel fearful, they're going to take your word for it. Okay, she must feel fearful. And so what really upset me about court today, the reason why I was frustrated is because there was no finality to it. She was able to cost me a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of frustration, and then she just got to walk away from it. I wanted to hear what the judge had to say.
Maybe not, Wes. Maybe not.
Oh, please, Shin, continue.
Well, again, this could leave a bad taste in the judge's mouth, and you never know. Let's put it this way: anything that happens to her, you'll get CC'd on. But who knows? The judge can refer it to somebody, maybe the DA's office or whatever. But my guess is she'll at least get she get the copy of the dismissal first of all, with the judge signing off on it, and probably there's going to be some language in there from the judge about what she did. My guess. Can we go back to that cease and desist letter real quick? Is that?
Oh, please, yeah.
Cease and desist. Yeah, here we go.
The thing about this is typically cease and desist letters are usually something that precedes a civil suit. So, Wes, I'm sure you've seen them before, where people are making copyright claims, trademark claims, or even patent claims. In those cases. And they're basically putting them on notice that anything further, in addition to what you've done already, you'll be held accountable for when I bring you to court. And it's telling you to stop right now for your own good. That's essentially what that does. I've never seen someone use a cease and desist order in a domestic protection order case before. I've never seen that. This is more of something, again, as I said, precedes a civil case. And again, if she's going to send these letters out, by the way, at the end of normal cease and desist letters, they give you a time frame. They tell you how long, we need some kind of verification that you have stopped. And if you have not stopped by 30 days on whatever it is, June, we will initiate legal action right away. And that's typically how they end. In her case, she ends it with, she noticed her therapist. I'm not sure whether that person is a law enforcement officer, and has been followed up with human trafficking agencies. That's kind of vague, and DA on the case. That, again, that's the paragraph where you will put as a this is what will happen if you don't stop. And it's kind of all she's doing there is just basically, I don't know, name dropping or whatever you want to call it, or person dropping to let you know that she has some validity behind her position. But you can't get someone to cease and desist letters are only as good as they're followed up by civil litigation. And in this case, you know, something would have been sent back like just 5 words. I invite you to proceed. Just go. Just do it. Just ignore these things. Essentially, these things are worthless. This is worthless.
Well, obviously, I ignored it. Well, I mean, look at the language in it. It clearly was written. I mean, it might as well have been in crayon on the back of a pizza box.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and I'm sorry to hear what happened to Britney too. I don't know the full story there. Britney, I'm really, really sorry about this. I mean, we know who we're dealing with right now.
Britney got it really, really bad. And again, I recommend it's on my community tab, and there's going to be a link in the description. Britney made a video explaining everything.
Yeah, but essentially,
what was fantastic. She did a fantastic job.
What was that, Shin?
What Muse is doing is nothing that should put fear in anyone. And I'm not sure how Britney got hurt, but if she's continuing to be hurt, Britney, I'd love to help you if you'd like. If you want to email me, Wes can get you my email address. It's shinsquala@gmail.com, essentially, just to see what the fallout is. And a lot of times you're going to find out that, you know, if there is something that's continuing, it's nothing to worry about. And that's what you need to be told. I mean, I think you may have not seen a lawyer on this, and I would recommend you do if you are concerned about it. But I think a quick review of this whole thing might set your mind at ease if there's anything I can do for you.
Well, the good thing is Muse doesn't know how to contact or find Britney. So it's one of the things she says in that crazy live stream she had about me, just, you know, days after filing for the order of protection. She was saying that Britney would be served too if she knew how to find her and get a hold of her. You know, I think the fear that Britney has with Muse. They're there for clobber.
Shit.
Sorry about that.
It's Seth.
No, it's actually the Gilgo Beach Task Force.
Oh, fuck,
they found me. They found me.
Vincent and Franny found us. Actually, I think Muse called the police on our stream.
So here's another funny thing.
What's interesting is this is the person with the most unclean hands I've ever seen in my life. I mean, everything she's doing. And more importantly, what she's doing is actually, you know, with regard to the threats, if you don't give me the money, I'm going to get restraining order or whatever she said. That's extortion. Clarence, and she was stupid enough to write it down too. Well,
I will say with Britney has moved on. She that video that she did, she said that's the last time she wants to, you know, even deal with it or talk about it.
But I just want
Britney's in a very good place right now.
That's good, Brittnay, and you should stay there because there's nothing to worry about with this woman. What she does legally, that's all I can say. There's nothing.
Well, no, and I hope she kind of learned with this situation that not everyone is going to be ignorant to the law. Not everyone's just going to say, okay, well, I'll take this on myself. As soon as this came in, I knew this wasn't something that I wanted to deal with on my own. You know, I actually have a lot of things going on in my life. I don't depend on GoFundMe's for, you know, to support myself and my kids. So I have too many things going on. So yeah, I wanted to hire an attorney, and I wanted to hire the right attorney who was going to make her regret filing these charges against me.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I think you got to handle this case yourself. I mean, those cases.
I probably could have, but it's not something I wanted to go into
I would
on
never
my own.
Anybody do that?
And I didn't even think to talk to you about it beforehand.
Well, and that's what happened with Britney. Britney, she showed up to court without any. Britney and her ex showed up to court without any legal representation, and like I said, Muse did, you know, the Harvey Weinstein, where she, you know, she walked in, not walk, but she rolled in with, you know, a feeding tube and on a ventilator and shit like that.
Well, and a health worker. So she even looked, she looked like the invalid. There was someone rolling her into court, just like I had to wheel her through the airport while she's sitting in this wheelchair.
Well, that's good. She's got the wardrobe and the props. Now let's see what she has to say. I would imagine that if you did this on your own, the best way to handle this is to just stay quiet and let the court sort it out. They can recognize it right away. Obviously, you're ready to go if you need to, but this woman's going to hang herself all the time.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah, it was from the second that court, when she actually did show up, she was so unhinged and she was ridiculous with what she was saying. She was bouncing from one topic to the next and talking about her T-shirt trauma, which I don't know if anything's going to stick out to me as much as T-shirt trauma. And again, so Allie the Alien has put up a Teespring store, and she's got like the Ploy Story shirts, and I think there's like some pillows. There's a couple things. So you guys should.
The picture that I started with was the I'm a victim throw pillow.
Oh yeah, well I mean you got to have the throw pillow at least.
Right. It's
not just a pillow; it's a conversation starter, and you could be a victim of style. So there you go.
That's right.
That was my plug for Allie the Alien.
Yeah, I mean, again, you could just sit at that hearing and basically say nothing and get everything you want. Basically a dismissal. Lady, are you crazy? It's because the judge has got to understand her case first before they even get to you.
Well, and that's why I was mad that she wasn't going to be there. And I had done research on the judge. I asked my lawyer, and she reached out, and he's supposed to be one of those judges that reads everything. So he was well aware of of what was going on prior to. He wasn't going to be one of those guys who you sit down in front of him and he goes, okay, tell me what's going on. I haven't looked at these yet.
Like the judge that Britney got, who was
completely ignorant to what was going on.
Fill me in on that. What happened to Britney though with that judge? I'm assuming she walked away.
So we keep saying it was Britney, but it wasn't. It was not Britney.
I'm sorry. It's just it
was Britney's ex, and who was also Muse's ex. And when things fell apart between them, she left, and then she later claimed a sexual assault, but she also claimed she needed an order of protection. And you'll notice in that cease and desist that she sent me on April 3rd, she says, I will file an order of protection. So she'd already used it once. She was going to use it again. And she was warning me that that's what she was going to do. So there was never a trial. There was never anything on the sexual assault because her evidence that she provided proved that there was no sexual assault. Real quick. The other thing about these RSOs, excuse me, these TROs, is that typically if someone is really in fear of imminent harm to themselves, the first thing they do is they call the police, and the police do an investigation. And whether they do anything or not, they at least have a police report to bring to these hearings, because that's the first thing a judge will ask. If you're in such danger, why didn't you call the police? Exactly.
I mean, why aren't they involved here? And chances are she did. Now, ironically,
she called the FBI on RSN.
Yeah, I'm sure she called the police. That was one of the things she said at court last week, is that she had numerous.
Well, she needs reports to show that. I mean, anybody can call the police. But what's really ironic, I don't know if you received it or not, but I would like to see the report of that attempted arrest on you to show that the cops wrote the report saying there was nothing there. And
so there was no report made. So when I did the Freedom of Information Act request, I requested everything. I requested everything related to that police report number. There was no report made. That was how little they thought of it. Everything that they sent me, I got the one long phone call, and everything else is radio chatter of them, they're being called out of other places to come to the Walmart so that they could arrest this dangerous trafficker. Because, chances are I'm not traveling alone. I have some guy with me with weapons, and there's probably another car following me. So they're expecting trafficking. So they're all getting called in from other things that they could be doing because she's, bullshitting the police, just like she later was bullshitting the court.
Well, even if there wasn't a report, you could have subpoenaed one of the cops, to say exactly what happened, if that was need be. But look, what I'm saying that's ironic is typically the petitioner who does that. It's a petitioner who has a police report, maybe has worked already with the DA's office. DA's office would bring in victim advocate to help her at the hearing. None of that was here.
No, well, she claimed that she had numerous police reports from every time I would say something about Muse on Twitter, or when I streamed with RSN the day after I got the order of protection. She violated her own no contact order by emailing it to me because I guess the police hadn't gotten it to me fast enough. And she was concerned I was going to continue ruining this grift. So she emailed it to me and had someone else email it to me too. But I've seen a text message that she sent someone while RSN and I were streaming. She said, oh my God, this was a setup from the beginning. I'm calling the police right now. They're both going to get arrested. So for whatever reason, she thought that, because she had made false claims against RSN and then she made false claims against me, that maybe what she's saying now, she's trying to allude to, is that RSN and I were in on it from the beginning. Like after the puppy kicking claims, that him and I got together and we worked out this thing, and I was going to get her to move here, and then I was going to try and traffic it. Like that's what's in her head. And if that's what I'm saying, if she really feels like that's what happened, if she believes it, not if she wants to believe it, but if she really believes that's what happened, because I hear her now saying that she's a targeted individual, which I've never heard her say before. But I hear her now saying she's a targeted individual. And if she believes that, then she really needs to go get help. And if not, like she needs to go to prison. Yeah, that's where she needs to be. Go to prison.
To me, it just boggles my mind how I know she's pro se. I know that she's not represented. I know that she probably tried to get representation. They said no. But it just boggles my mind where she thinks she can just go in and make an argument without evidence at all. No evidence. And the evidence that is there, that is on the record, cuts against her on everything.
Yeah. Yes.
So she thinks that the power of her argument, she's going to give an Al Pacino speech or something, and it's going to get the order. No idea what's going on with that. But she can even support her own positions. I'm disabled, or I'm whatever. These are my medical conditions. She could have provided those, but she had nothing. All she had was her.
Well, let's talk about that real quick, because I don't want this stream to go on too much longer. The thing with on Chris Hansen's channel is starting in 30 minutes, but let's talk about that, because there were some claims from her about, and that was something that everyone has been saying, just show proof. And here's the thing about Muse, and I'm not telling anyone anything they don't know when I say, if she had these medical diagnoses, if these were real, not only would she proudly show them, she would wear the shit on a t-shirt. Mm-hmm. She is not shy. The feeding tube, everyone needs to know about the feeding tube. If she goes to the dog park, she wants people to know she has DID. Why would she not show proof of these things? Because the proof is in the pudding, right? I had someone contact me on Twitter who was asking me to donate to like some cat charity. Okay, well, show me proof. Right. And I never heard back. I want to see proof. If you're telling me I need money for this surgery because I have so and so and so, and then you're able to show proof of that, actual proof, then why wouldn't you? And so she was saying on that live stream that she was doing about me a few weeks ago, her last video, because then she very smartly took her whole channel down. But what she was saying on that video was that she doesn't have access to her My Chart. She doesn't have a stack of reports, that because she's moved 9 times. And I bring this up real quick. If you've moved 9 times, and I know of at least 5 moves this year, why are you afraid of being swatted? No one knows where the hell you're transient.
Yeah.
You're a transient person. So you all this stuff you talk about being fearful of people showing up where? You live nowhere. You might as well be riding the Greyhound from one side of the country to the other. You live out of a fucking suitcase. No one is swatting you. Stop trying to be the victim.
We tried to guess what kind of evidence she would bring in the form of documents or instruments or whatever, and my guess was that she would have created some documents wrote some things, very self-serving things. Yeah. And the other thing is, I thought she might bring medical records, and I know that your lawyer was not going to rely on the authenticity of those medical records, but at least she would have provided a name, a provider, and then you could subpoena them yourself.
Well, that's what I was getting at. So she was talking about not having access to any of these things, and she mentioned that they're in her My Chart, but she couldn't get into her My Chart. That's what she said on the stream.
Do you want me to pull up the My Chart? Ago.
Well, yeah, and this isn't hers, but so someone sent this to me today.
Okay.
And this is what you would see on their My Chart, and I want you to notice that there's no identifiable, doxable information on this, but it does show very real, this is things that this person has or has dealt with or is dealing with currently.
So this is somebody else's my chart.
This is somebody else's. This is not Muse. This is someone who actually has these elements. This is someone who wanted to share with me. And this person, like this fucking angel who saw the stream that Muse did when she's talking about not being able to get into her my chart, remembered a stream she did with YouTube Schizophrenic, I don't know, 8 weeks ago, where she's talking about how she had just been in her my chart and was telling a sad story about how her heart was worse than she thought. So when it served her, when it was, oh, how sad this thing that, my heart is, you guys see my GoFundMe, right? My heart is not as good as they thought it should be. I was just in my chart. But then 5 weeks later, on her own stream, she's saying, well, I don't even know how to get into my chart.
Yeah.
So, and thank you to that person. Like, if they're in the chat and want to, I don't want to say who they are, but if they want to identify themselves, that's awesome. But they were the person who pointed out to me that this is bullshit. And so I was able to use that because I'm not proving anything at this point. Like, this person Muse knows who she is. I mean, she knows that these things, if they are real, then you're telling me you couldn't show this? You're so open without everything in your life. You want to talk about sexual assaults. Like, look at the tweets that she was posting after the fact when she wanted to be the survivor, not a victim. She wanted to be the survivor, and she wanted to be going heads up against Brittnay Simon, this monster who was supporting this monster. She wanted to be as open as possible. But when you're saying you're asking for money, you're asking people to donate, you're asking people to feel sorry for you, show some proof, then she can't do anything. She can't show anything because, that's private. Why would I show them?
If she's gilding Lily on all of her medical issues, I mean, think about it. If she's basing any GoFundMe pages on needing medical treatment for medical treatment that doesn't exist, that's an issue. If she
that's fraud, of course.
That's fraud, exactly. And if she were to provide you medical records, you might blow her whole game up.
Well, yeah.
And it would be incriminating. If I were her attorney, I would say, no, you're not giving these up. I mean, you're going to end up in jail. I mean, how much money have you taken from these people online for these alleged diagnoses that you've said? And now I'm looking at the paperwork and I'm seeing something that's not there. You're going to have to do better than that. So if she were to give it to you, that any medical records like that, somebody could use that, or even law enforcement could use that if somebody makes a complaint that she's defrauding people, as to have her investigated for fraud.
Well, yeah, and that's the issue that we have. That's the issue that we have is my story. Just like with Vince, Vince didn't get exposed as this racist, misogynist piece of shit all at once. Baked Salmon and I made a video showing that he lied about a website. It was such a minor thing. To think that was just 6 months ago, we were laughing about a badly made website. And I mean, now when you say Vince Nicotri, you don't think about Excess Builder and Pro Streams. You think about everything that's happened in the days and months afterwards. And with her, the story about human trafficking just kind of peeled one layer of the onion. And then you started seeing so much more. Maybe these medical diagnoses aren't real because this person, and all these people who reached out to me, other than Brittnay Simon, who even has a channel. Some of these people, they're not even they're only on Twitter, or they're not on YouTube or Twitter. They're emailing me because I put my email address as contact. A lot of these people who reached out to me didn't want to be named at all.
Yeah, and almost none of them have YouTube channels. And
other than Brittnay, no one had a YouTube channel.
Yeah, and, I mean, that's why I'm saying
RSN, and even him. So RSN had tried reaching out to me before Muse moved to my house, and I ignored him because, as far as I knew, from what I had been told, he was a bad guy. So of course he was going to try and warn me not to have Muse here.
I want to read a donation from Leah Marie Rose, who donated $5 and said, good job for not backing down. Fake victims hurt too many people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, someone said, what about her poor roommate before Wes? That's Kat. She has come forward. Kat's talking about maybe making a video because she lived with Muse for 4 months. And I can't even imagine. It was 2 weeks for me, and you saw. I mean, you could see when reading those house rules, my frustration. And Kat did 4 months, and the thing when we first started talking, it was like a mini support group, and then we're able to share text messages that like she's getting text messages shit talking me while Muse is here. I was getting them shit talking her while she was there. So like she's the least grateful person, and these are one of those cautionary tales about charity, and that's what sucks when you become that cautionary tale, because whether she believes or not, these people are giving her charity, charging her $300 a month for rent, and then later cutting it down to free and then making it $75. I mean, that's charity. I don't let people stay in my home. I don't do that. But because of these perceived medical conditions and how dire it was, like I was willing to, I wanted to be that person who's going to like step up and help. And initially it was just help you get out to Washington. Yeah, I can get you a ticket, help you get out to Washington. She claimed she had her own money. She said it in the stream herself. No, I had money because she claimed to me that her Etsy store was successful, and she was also making a good amount of money with like her cam stuff and her Patreon.
Well,
so I had no.
You did kind of a quick analysis, or you tried to figure out how much she's made on her GoFundMe on your situation.
Well, on my situation, she made nothing. That GoFundMe died. It hadn't gotten a donation in like. Go ahead. What was that?
Which is why she's not in trouble, which is, again, if she didn't make anything, it's one thing for someone to claim they have cancer, go on Facebook and receive $50,000 in GoFundMe donations. And they don't have cancer.
Well, she at one time had, what was it, $250 in her GoFundMe until Wes dropped that video, and not a dime since.
She made one post saying, this GoFundMe has been used to ridicule and harass me or something like that without my consent.
Point is, her saving grace from looking at fraud charges is her unsuccessful attempt to do it.
It's still up though. She didn't take the GoFundMe down.
Well,
so would that not matter? I mean, it's still there, able to collect money. So if these elements aren't real and people are donating, believing that she needs this money because she lists all the things wrong with her in there. She's talking about not being able to eat, and she was lying about not knowing when she was going to get her formula and feeding tube shit she left at my house when we had already had a plan for me to drop it off 2 days later. It's always a sympathy game. Well, so I'm sorry. I want to, before we get off here, I want to show a couple of things that someone sent to me on Twitter. And this is what I mean, when she's saying that I am violating her, I'm like looking at her social media, I'm stalking her. I don't have to.
I don't know if I have those, Wes.
The folder, the Muse Cell folder, it's in the same folder.
Yeah, I didn't download those, but
oh shit. I can read them to you. And they're also in my video that'll be coming up.
They will be, like I said, when after this publishes, we'll put the Google the drive with all the stuff so everybody can read them. But yeah, if you want to read them out.
Yeah, I just want to point out a few things. So when after the court case with her ex, she was awarded an apartment she could not afford, and it didn't last long. I believe she was evicted either that month or the next month. She was already evicted from the place. So big victory. You win the place to live, and then you're homeless not long after. But in her mind, she won. She beat him, and he had to leave his home and everything else, and she won. So good for her. She had a sale, and I don't know what app she used to do this sale, if it was OfferUp or what. But every item that she posted, she mentioned either domestic violence or abuse of some sort in the ads. And this is disgusting to me. Because it's very manipulative.
Yeah, I did see those, and every single.
AK Mugnuts talked about the money has to transfer hands. In the case of electronic fraud, it has to be withdrawn. That's true, but you actually need a predicate of a victim first. You need somebody to come forward and complain about it. Because as far as law enforcement would look at this thing, anybody who's contributing to her, unless they complain, knows that for all they know that she's lying. They're giving her money anyway. So, and they don't consider themselves victims. All it takes is a call to the police. And I don't understand why people go directly to the FBI either. That's any field office or anything like that. I mean, they do have original jurisdiction on certain cases, federal cases, kidnapping, things like that. But you start with the local police first.
Well, it's an escalation, though, right? Like she had started off by calling the police on who knows how many people, and then RSN, who's clear on the other side of the country, she's going to want to make the biggest impact that she could. And if she can go on, if she was able to get 500 subscribers from going after, Brittnay Simon and talking constantly about what could she do if she was able to say, I had the FBI pick up RSN because of what he did to me. What's that going to do to her? If she's able to get video of me in the parking lot of Walmart being arrested for trafficking her, she'd be on Maury Povich right now talking about her.
People are giving money to her willingly and not complaining about it. Again, investigators can only conclude, unless they have a complaint, that there's no issue here.
I understand that, of course.
You know what's funny about her, mining essentially Brittnay Simon's fan base and RSN's fan base and Deity's fan base. I think she only had a little over 1,000 subscribers.
It was like 12. Well, I have her goodbye, her sad goodbye YouTube message she sent when she was, trying to play the victim and like she had been canceled unfairly and she was going to be gone for 2 years. And she said the exact number of 1,276 subscribers.
Right.
And but you look at the 1,276 subscribers, but her video views would barely get over 100 unless she was talking about Deity or talking about, the abuse from RSN or anything like that. So she had these subscribers, but she didn't make content.
Yeah.
She whined.
They were essentially fans of Britney and of RSN and of Deity.
Yeah, or people who just want to see that kind of drama. And if you're not making that kind of stuff, they don't care about what you have because you're not entertaining. You're not making good content, and they'll watch you for anything. It's not like, oh, Mr. Gigi made TCAP stuff and now he's doing movie reviews. I still follow Mr. Gigi, but like if I only was there for the TCAP stuff, then I wouldn't be watching him. You know what I mean? And so for her when she got those subscribers, was because she was this victim of abuse, and people were wanting to see more of that. She promised that other evidence was going to be coming forward after the court case, and there was a 28-minute audio recording that she was going to release. And the reason why she didn't release that 28-minute audio recording was because it's very clear what's going on. She's trying to make her ex look crazy. He's telling her he wants to break up, and she's screaming, "No, you can't do that to me. I put my whole life into you." And he's telling her, he's asking her, "When can you leave?" And she's like, "I can't go anywhere. There's nowhere I can go." And then so it's clear that when she left, she was very vindictive. And the one thing that she could do was say, "Oh, okay, well, I've been sexually assaulted. You want to get rid of me? Then I'm going to fuck your life over." And she's still upset till this day that he didn't go to jail, that he didn't end up in prison for that. Because if you're going to do something to her, she's going to get you back. And she's going to get you back by getting the law, by trying to use the law like her personal protector. And that's just not what it's for. But I want to get back to this to the sale that she was having. So, she was selling this coffee table, and, she talks about the table, very normal. And then at the bottom, sale starts tomorrow for a move out after domestic violence. Doesn't mention it's an eviction sale. Right in the background of the picture, there's a wheelchair. And that, to me, again, it seems manipulative. It seems like something you're doing. Now, a lot of people use these apps because they want to bargain. You're going to buy this coffee table. You have it listed for $120. Maybe I want to see if I can get it for $80 or $100. Now, when you see this person talking about domestic violence, there's a wheelchair in the background. There's other ads where they go, "You'll need to bring 2 people because I'm disabled." Are you going to go there to this person who's telling you that they've been a victim of domestic violence? They need to move out because of it. Are you going to go there and try and haggle with this person?
Yeah, you might even give them more.
Exactly. You might even give them more, you poor thing. And then you show up and she's in a wheelchair with a feeding tube. Looks like she's on death's door. Her eyebrows are shaved. I would love to talk to any of those people who bought any of this stuff, because I'm sure there was a story and it wasn't, I got evicted, so I'm moving out. And, this is because of gastroparesis. I'm sure that wasn't the story. And then the next item that was a coffee table, and then there's some pants, some $2 jeans, that were being sold, and I lost too much weight to wear these when I got my feeding tube placed. And I mean, it's a pair of $2 pants. Does it need a story? No. And it's something else and these are all posted with the same thing. So, okay, this person has a feeding tube. They're a victim of domestic violence. And then the next one was a dress. And it said, this dress was one of my abuser's favorites. So she wanted to sell these things. So she was making it like this was she wanted to get rid. There was a lot of clothing items that she was selling, and every one of them was like, well, I want to get rid of this because it was one of my abuser's favorites. My abuser really liked this. I didn't like this style, so I need to get rid of it. And who posted an ad like that? So when she's taught, and this is before her move to California, she goes to California. She's there for a week as a result of her actions and her service dog that was not a service dog, that was tearing up their floor, that had to be leashed to furniture because it could not be controlled. They told her it was a good idea for her to start looking into somewhere else to move.
The service dog, which she actually sold
for hundreds of dollars. When an actually trained service dog, you're not going to sell it on Craigslist for several $100s. And if it was a trained service dog, you would think you would want it to continue being in service to someone else. But so I lost my train of thought when you cut me off, Clower. Good job. I don't remember what I was saying.
You were talking about the ads that she placed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's just, to me it's all manipulative. And I wonder when it went from, if it is in fact a Munchausen type situation, or where these elements are imagined rather than real. When did it go from something for attention to something that could get you money? And I wonder if maybe the panhandling that she openly admits to, is that where it started, or was it after a lot of the Onision victims were doing GoFundMes? I know there was one for a tattoo. Someone wanted to get a tattoo, and Muse also did a GoFundMe because she wanted to get money for tattoos, because she says that there's some permanent marks on her body from this non-sexual assault that she tries to claim as a sexual assault. And so I don't know that GoFundMe has been scrubbed. I don't know where it is or how to find it. But there was a GoFundMe she did for that she complained was not as successful as she would have wanted it to be. So I also know when there was another girl who had a GoFundMe, and Muse really went to bat for this girl, going out and trying to help get money raised for her. And then she was very upset that the girl earned more money from her one Patreon than she had from all of her Patreons combined. So I don't know when it became a monetized thing. Or maybe this was the start of it, when she's like, oh, well, I'm a victim of domestic. I have an order of protection. It was probably sitting on the kitchen table when people showed up, and she had this order of protection. She had something that she can prove that she was a victim, and she was going to use it to her best ability to raise money. On that live stream she did when she was lying about me, she didn't say, I have a petition for order of protection. She actually said, I don't need receipts. I have a restraining order.
Which anybody could have gotten.
Exactly. I mean, I wasn't, like ex parte. I didn't know anything about it. She can go down there and make up any story you want. And she was granted a temporary order of protection. But she made it sound like it was this definitive thing that she had, where there was some proof and evidence shown, and she was granted this order of protection. But then when it actually comes down to it, and she's being asked to prove to the court that you need this order of protection, provide any evidence you have, she brought nothing.
Yeah, she's a day trader. That's all. She doesn't really look into the future. She does her havoc ahead of time, and then it ends up realizing that she's going to get called on her bullshit when she gets to court, and tries to make as much currency out of it as she can up until that point. And then she's going to spin this dismissal, for whatever medical reasons that she has. But she got the attention she wanted. That's what this whole thing's about, it seems to me.
I don't think this is the attention she was looking for. There's attention and there's exposure. And what this was exposure. Attention would have been great for her. Whether she could be the villain or the hero, attention's awesome. That's what she wanted. But being exposed and everyone questioning everything you've told them, everyone wondering about these things that where she's telling people. One of the things she told me early on, she was suicidal. She was because of all the things going on and the stress from being doxxed. And I had been doxxed. a week prior by Vince.
Vincent, yeah, I remember.
To 3,500 followers, and he's putting my picture and name out there and saying I'm a hacker. So I understood that. The domestic violence stuff, I understood that. So there was a lot there for me to be like, oh, wow, like I really do get this. And, as this like fragile person who's dealing with all these medical ailments, and she's telling me that her roommate is this horrible person who's treating her, working her to the bone like Cinderella. She sounded like someone who needed a lot of help. And being exposed, it takes those opportunities from you. How many more doors are going to be open to her after this?
Yeah. Just off topic real quick. The last I heard about the Hansen situation, it was that Nicotra and his sister were taking him to asking for an application for a criminal complaint in New Jersey court somewhere.
It's a whole thing. I mean, the court's been delayed until July. I did a video about it. The whole thing is it's not Nicotra himself. It's his sister claiming harassment because of bad Google reviews that were left on Google about her site. But as I pointed out in the video, she was claiming harassment was caused by Chris leading people, creating a hate mob, very much like what Muse was saying, well, there was a hate mob created by Chris. He needs to be responsible. But as I pointed out, she supposedly purchased his domain name like a week earlier. And that got out there. Vince was tweeting congratulations to his sister for winning the domain name. And that's when all the bad reviews started coming in.
I think it might have been congratulations.
Anybody can file for an application for criminal complaint. Anyone can do that.
Yeah, of course.
It's not that hard.
Well, but she says in her video when she's being interviewed by Onision, she goes, so I went down and I got a complaint, which is not easy. It's not easy, but I did it.
There's a difference. Basically, they're going to determine whether they're going to issue a complaint at the hearing. She doesn't have the complaint yet, just an application. Unless the police arrest you on the spot, and you've been victimized by somebody who wasn't arrested, you can still go into court, go to the clerk magistrate's office and ask for a hearing on a criminal application.
Well, Vince,
that determination, that's where she is. Anyone can do that, just so you know. She's a lawyer. She should know better. Yeah,
but they're also liars. So Vince and all of his genius, back when the case was first announced, because I'd found out about it that morning before it got released. I had a source contact me about it, and I didn't do anything with it because I didn't know if it was real. So back when that first happened, Vince went and posted on Twitter bragging, saying, "Well, actually, the reason, I don't even know if it'll get to this case because there is a open criminal warrant against Chris Hansen in New Jersey." And so I believe, and so basically what he was saying was the reason to get Chris to the courthouse was so that he would get arrested on this open criminal warrant.
Really?
But and the warrant is like 9 years old. But here's the thing that I pointed out. Chris has worked with the New Jersey police. He worked with the New Jersey police on To Catch a Predator after this. So they would have been like, oh, wait, dude, before we go out there, we need to arrest you right quick.
What's the underlying charge, if you don't mind me asking? Was it just he didn't show up for a traffic hearing or something?
Are you asking me? I don't know what the charge was.
Okay, I just
what I look like, Johnny Cochran? I don't know. No, it was bad checks. Fuck you. It was bad. It was a bad check. So, and the home address was also a New Jersey address. And then Chris doesn't slum it from what I understand. So, no, so that was the whole idea. The whole idea, I believe, was to get whatever you could to get him into court. Almost like when the police.
That's an abuse. She should know better than that.
Well, she should know better. She should know better than to do a lot of things that she's done since Vince has been fired. I think the
case is frivolous, and she's bringing it entirely to get him prosecuted on an unrelated matter. That's an abusive process.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, well, and that's the whole thing on it. So that's the whole rub on the case. It is a very frivolous case. She's blaming him for something that now if there were videos of him saying, this is Frances Nicotra, this is her website, she's a lawyer, let's go out there and really show her what we think of her. That would be one thing, but he never did that. He didn't make that familial connection until after she had filed these charges against him for harassment that she claimed he had done a month earlier. So the whole thing is a junk case, and it's just another thing where you see
Brilliant mess.
and this is the collateral damage of what's caused when you're one of these people who, instead of just saying, yeah, I messed up, when Vince first got fired and he starts messing with the Facebook page, I thought it was comical at first, and if you would have told me that 4 months later it would still be going on, I wouldn't believe you, because this is a grown man. This isn't just
a 42-year-old man is
he's not 42, he's like 44. He's
okay,
like 40,
yeah, well, whatever.
You're a mid 40-year-old man, and you're making these posts that sound like they're those old, truly tasteless joke books and racist comments and stupid doxing.
Go along with it and give you a thumbs up. This is ridiculous. But okay, I didn't mean to deviate over to Chris.
No, we should wrap this up here. So
yeah, the final thing I have is the dismissal. And I have that up on screen, and it basically says the request for domestic violence protection order is denied, and the case is dismissed with prejudice. And then there's a box check that says other petitioner failed to appear in court after numerous attempts to reach her.
But while this was going on, while she should have been in court, she was posting TikToks. Did you have that, Clobber? Because someone sent this to me on Twitter.
I have it up right now.
And this is like the most, ironic, really aggravating. And, my lawyer was upset about this too.
Yeah, and it's basically my therapist told me a story of a client arrested. It's just we need to hear POC voices.
Can you post that link? So I mean, she's acting as a there you go, acting as a like she's an activist, and people of color need to be heard when dealing with the police, and they're systematically played. And this is a person who called and it's not about race to me. I mean, any person, any sex, anyone who would have had the police falsely called on them for any reason knows what I'm talking about. But, in this environment, when you're seeing the result of what's happening in Minneapolis and stuff, but this person is on here this morning, instead of going to court, posting TikToks about hearing the voices of people of color. She could have heard my colorful voice by showing up to court.
Yeah, right.
Look what she's doing to a person of color. Right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's insane to me that instead of she filed this case, she claimed she was terrified, but this is what she was doing. Because anywhere that she can build an audience, that's where she's going to go. I have some of her Patreons are contacting me, telling me she's not making posts anymore. So she's asking these people for money, but she doesn't want to make posts because she's afraid that they're getting leaked.
She's being exposed.
Well, yes. So now what I'm getting every day is a bunch of her TikToks that she's posting with the shaved eyebrows and the alien look, just doing all these things where the tags are back, actually autistic, tube awareness, gastroparesis, and talking a lot about recovery and trauma and victimization and being stalked. And that's ridiculous to me. That's not okay.
Yeah.
So this is what they do. Instead of facing it and saying, this is what happened, I'm so sorry, I messed up, they're going to try and run and find every corner of the internet they can where they're not known so that they can blend in and hide. And then they'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's wrap up so I can.
Yeah, not a problem. So.
That made a great point, Wes. Not only did she make a false police report on you, but you could have been killed.
I knew that from the, and again, that not just because of color, but anytime you involve the police and you're talking about a dangerous thing like trafficking,
sure,
where there are always weapons involved. I'm not showing up here without a weapon if I'm trafficking someone. It's a high priority call. They were on alert when they got there.
They're going to take you down hard like Lee Greer.
Yeah, right. I mean, and they could have. And then we could be talking about a whole other thing that would have come from this, where I'm filing police brutality reports against them, and then all because of a false call that no one needed to be there for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Yeah, and again, I'm sure if anybody has any further questions, I mean, there's, like I said, this was very eventful and somewhat predictable that everything just got dropped. I think really the only funny thing about it is the prejudice issue that she tried to pull.
Agreed. Yeah.
And Wes, you're going to be on with me again. We're going to...
Wes, can I ask you real quick, Wes, before... I'm sorry, Clobber.
That's fine.
When she said no prejudice, did you, was she responding to a letter where you said, I want this dismissed with prejudice? After
my lawyer responded back and said that we rejected the request to drop that they had sent, the order of dismissal, and wanted ours used, which, specifically stated it was with prejudice.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that was her response. All right, go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah. So Wes and I are going to be on again, and we'll answer if anybody had any questions. We didn't want to cut into the Chris Hansen video with Wes and Britney. I appreciate, again, Wes, I appreciate you hanging out with us today. Go to Chris Hansen's channel. It's Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. The video is a pre-recorded video. It's not live, right?
Yeah, no, it's not live.
Okay, so yeah, check out Chris Hansen's channel, Have a Seat with Chris Hansen, where it's Wes and Britney.
Yeah, debut a new video, so go check it out.
All right, and me and Wes will be on again soon. Shin, I want to thank you again for hanging out.
It was awesome. Thanks.
I really appreciate it. I do apologize to everybody for being a bit late. I had a little technical issue, but we'll go through this again. Wes, thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to everybody in the chat. And all of this stuff is going to be posted in the description of this video. All of these folders, all of these files, everybody will be able to access those. So, all right, go check out Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. And I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. I will talk to all of you very, very soon.